Hello and welcome to the Chat with Chaps YouTube for another episode of the Opposition View, where we will be previewing this weekend's game away to West Brom. Now, once again, you've got myself, George, instead of Chris. Delighted to be back. Chris asked me to come back since I was so good the first time, apparently. So I said, yeah, why not? So on to this weekend, West Brom away. What can we expect? What would the team be, etc. First and foremost, I'm going to briefly touch on Cardiff midweek. Obviously, we all want to forget about the performance and the result. It was a disaster from really start to finish, losing to Cardiff, bottom of the table. But I thought I'll just touch on it before we go into what I would have my starting 11 to be, because I think it's just relevant to have the two together. So what I will say is from midweek is, yes, it was a really bad result. It was a poor performance. But what I think it comes down to is just that I just think the boys are knackered. They're really tired. When you're playing the same team every single game, sometimes twice a week, eventually fitness is going to take its toll. And as we know, Neil Harris plays a very sort of high demanding style of play. And eventually it was just going to take its toll. And I think that's what you saw, especially in the second half, and the reason why we were so poor. He also went 4-4-2 and Ivanovic came on and Honeyman came off, and we sort of lost it in the middle of the park a bit with Honeyman not being there. And in the end, it was just a bit of a shambles. But let's put it behind us and start focusing on Saturday, the last game before the international break. I haven't got a graphic to do with what I think my potential starting lineup would be. However, I think Neil Harris might have to make some changes to this starting 11. Now, you're probably thinking, well, who's probably just the same as me, really? Who would come into that starting lineup Saturday to be an adequate replacement for someone else? I just think with the amount of games we're playing, and I know there's an international break after this one, but with the amount of games we've playing the same team, he has to change up eventually. And we've got injuries, of course. Amaku is his last game suspended, I think. Or no, I think it's his second game suspended. Hutchinson's out injured now. Coburn, Bradshaw, Billy Mitchell. The list goes on. The list is endless. However, for me, I think he should change the starting 11. I think the goalkeeper and the back four will stay as it is. And then there's a potential shout for me to potentially bring Ryan Wintle in. Now, of course, Ryan Wintle wasn't available to play against Cardiff midweek due to that being his parent club. And he's obviously only made the brief odd appearance off the bench here and there. But with Saville and Denor playing every single game, basically every single minute this season, it wouldn't surprise me if Ryan Wintle does come in into one of those holding midfielder positions for one of the two. Then you've got the front three, in which I do think you just leave it as it is. That sort of left wing, right mid, attacking midfielder. I think you leave it as it is with Watmore, Honeyman, and Eze, simply because there isn't really anyone else to go in those positions. You could potentially bring in Ivanovic. Listen, I'm not sure what it will do, but I think with their form in recent games and with just simply lack of options, lack of squad depth, I think he'll keep it the same, and I think he'll go with Langstaff up front. That's the team which I think he could potentially go with. Not my team. That's just the team he could potentially go with for me. In my opinion, I think we need changes simply because the players are knackered. And if they didn't perform Tuesday midweek, that team, then ultimately, what makes you think that they're going to perform at the weekend against a very good and an even better side than Cardiff, let's just say, in West Brom? So, as we would know, by the way, it's literally just me. I'm literally going completely off the cuff, talking to a camera. I haven't got a West Brom fan joining me. However, our West Brom fan, Chris, from the Albion Analysis, has sent us a little 3-minute video clip of his opinions and his voice regarding this weekend's fixture. So, here is Chris from the Albion Analysis.
Hi guys, Chris here from Albion Analysis, just looking ahead to Millwall's trip to the Hawthorns this weekend. Hope it's a little bit more entertaining than Millwall's last trip to the Hawthorns. That was not a particularly great game of football, it has to be said, not from either side. in terms of how Albion are feeling ahead of the weekend's game, if you'd asked me this same question a week ago, I'd have been full of confidence, flush with confidence. But 2 defeats in a week and 2 defeats in just a few days take it out of you a little bit, to be honest with you. That's not to say we've played entirely badly in either of those games. We probably started the wrong side in both, largely enforced against Sheffield Wednesday with a couple of injuries in central midfield. And for that reason, we had an awful first half and then managed to get them back to 2-2 in the second half and then threw it away with a silly goal. The Borough game in the week, actually, I thought we started all right, to be honest. Probably did enough to be ahead at the break. And then just didn't really show up in the second half. Not until we were 1-0 down anyway. And again, I think on both games I can say we were probably deservedly beaten over the course of the piece. I think the better side won on both occasions, and those 2 games are probably the first 2 games this season where I can say Albion have been second best. I think for all of the first 6 games, which we took 5 wins and a draw from, we were the better side. But I have a funny feeling you won't be seeing your former favourite, Mr. Jed Wallace, from the off, because I think one of the mistakes we made on Tuesday night was leaving out Tom Fellows. Jed didn't do necessarily that badly, but I think leaving out Fellows is such a big call when he's playing as well as he is that I think you have to look at that as a mistake. I'm rather hoping we go back to the side that started the first 5 games and got us 4 wins and a draw, which would mean another former Millwall player would come in Jason Mullumbey. So I'm rather hoping that's the case. I think it's a big game for us because you get to 3 defeats or 3 without a win, and people start asking the question whether the bubble has burst, whether Albion's start to the season was just a flash in the pan. But equally, if we go and win on Saturday, people will go into the international break saying, "Oh, Albion are back on track. They've had a little bit of a wobble." So that's how reactionary football can be, and that's probably not fair to judge. To judge one game as so decisive in seeing where we are in the season. It's probably not accurate either, but it is where people will be. And going into an international break, I think you really want to finish strong on a positive. So I can't say I'm feeling terribly confident because we've been second best over the course of the piece in 2 games, but I'm hopeful that Corberán puts the side back together that did well for us earlier in the season, and that we can start getting the results that we got earlier in the season.
So that was Chris from the Albion analysis. Thank you, Chris. So West Brom, what do we know? First and foremost, they're no mugs, okay? They're a very good side in this division. They're a big club for the size of the club in this division. They've spent a lot of money in previous seasons and this season as well. And no doubt about it, they'll be towards the top end of this division come May, towards the end of this season, because they're a good side with good footballers. And for me, their best aspect for me is their manager, Carlos Corberán. I think I would go far and say I think he's the best manager in the league. I think the job he's done there so far is very good. I think the style of football he plays. So looking forward to the game this Saturday for sure. However, very aware that West Brom are a good side for this division. And the form table, or the table should I say, speaks for itself. West Brom went unbeaten in the first 6 games this season, winning 5 and drawing once. However, they have lost their last 2, as Chris mentioned. They didn't play badly, he was saying. He said they didn't play necessarily bad, but they have slipped up with 2 defeats in a row. 3-2 away at Sheffield Wednesday, and then a 1-0 defeat to Middlesbrough midweek. So they'll be looking to bounce back. They certainly don't want 3 defeats in a row. Like Chris said, that is obviously something they don't want. They obviously expect to win. They obviously want to win. And they're 4th in the league for a reason, say. And then that's when I'll move on to ones to watch from that West Brom side. And the one which stands out for me is Josh Maja. Of course, him and Duncan Watmore are currently having their own race at the top of the top goal scoring charts. Josh Maja's got 7 this season so far. Previously of Fulham, previously of Sunderland, previously of Bordeaux in France as well, I believe. Again, he's a good striker at this level, very good, and signed for him in the summer, I believe, and he's proven to be a really, really good purchase, because 7 goals in their opening few league games is a very good return so far. So he is certainly one to watch. As well as the other one I've got written down here, Tom Fellows. Now, Tom Fellows is a 21 years old winger, 5 assists so far this season. So it looks like he'll be trying to link up with Maja again this Saturday. And them two for me are the ones to watch. I think if you ask West Brom fans, Chris being one, of course, he will probably say that them two are definitely their best players, and they're definitely the ones to watch. I've also got Jason Malumbi written down as well. Of course, we all know there was a brief rumour in the summer that we were going to re-sign him, and we know exactly the type of player he is after his loan spell a few seasons ago when he was on loan from Brighton. Jed Wallace is, of course, the club captain, but Chris obviously mentioned there that he most likely won't start. Which you might see a little cameo off the bench, in which if he does come off, I would be lumping on money for him to score, because that just seems to always happen to us, doesn't it? So in terms of the ones to watch, they're the ones I've got noted down. But of course, if you look at the back, they've got Kyle Bartley and Semi Ajayi, two experienced centre-backs at this level. Alex Mowat alongside Malumbi in the middle of the park as well. And of course, John Swift, who is a very good player at this level, very talented. Still can't believe they got him for a free. They got him and Jed for a free, didn't they? Not too long ago, both Swift and Wallace to West Brom. So listen, West Brom, good side. We know exactly what to expect from them now. They're certainly no mugs. In which I'll then move on to a score prediction. Now, I've been to the Hawthorns the last 2 seasons. I won't be going this season, but I've been to the last 2 seasons. And both of them were 0-0 draws. That's not the reason why I'm not going this weekend, because I can't be asked to see another 0-0 draw. But based off their form, based off our form, based off previous results, I am going to go with another draw. I think the season before the previous 2 0-0s was a 1-1 as well, I want to say. I think Daniel Ballard scored that game. But I'm going to go with another 1-1 draw. I think this will be a very tough game. I think it's a point you take before the game. Certainly, West Brom are good sides, as we've mentioned. And I'm going to go with Macaulay Langstaff to score. I will always back Macaulay Langstaff to score every day of the week now. Pretty much every week I'm going to predict him to score. But I will predict Macaulay Langstaff to score in a 1-1 draw, in which, listen, I think most of us would snap your hand off for a draw away at the Hawthorns if you take now. So that's it. Say it's a shorter sort of opposition view as previous, because I haven't got a fan with me talking. And it's literally gone straight off the cusp, one take. So I like to think I've done quite well. But listen, ladies, gentlemen, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It's growing, of course. Chris is doing extremely well. So make sure you subscribe. And you can find me on TikTok if you haven't already. George.C9, there it is. Where is it? No, wrong way. It's down there. Down in the bottom left. You can find me on TikTok, where I basically just talk all Millwall and give my opinion, which I like to think's all right. But thank you very much. If you're going Saturday, all the best. And hopefully we can bring home 3 points. Thank you.